Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification, and share this with your friend. Today's topic is value-added tax. But before that, let's both understand very well what a tax is. What is tax? What is the definition, the benefits, the functions, and types of tax? So, as not to be confused, let's see the explanation. Let's get started. In general, the definition of tax is a mandatory levy in the form of money that comes from the people and is given to the state government. Thus, taxes are an obligation for all Indonesian people in order to generate income and development performance. So, it can be said that the notion of tax is a contribution of the people to their country in the form of mandatory money contributions. However, what tax benefits do people get when they pay these contributions? We get into the first question. What tax benefits do people get when they pay these contributions? Here, tax benefits for the citizen and the state. The benefits for the citizen. The first tax benefit is that the citizen can enjoy public facilities and infrastructure built by the government. An example is toll roads,
or highway. The second tax benefit is to finance national defense and security. The third tax benefit is funding elections. The next tax benefit for the people is food and fuel subsidies, which are often enjoyed by the small people. The last benefit of taxes for the citizen is to improve the quality of mass transportation.
And for the benefits for the state, such as financing reproductive expense. Taxes can cover reproductive expenditures that benefit society, such as spending on irrigation and agriculture. Next, finance state expenditure. An example is for export goods delivery projects. Next, financing non-self-liquidating and non-reproductive expense. An example is the fees that must be paid for the construction of the monuments and recreational areas. And financing non-productive expense. We get into the second question. In your opinion, what is the function of tax? There are the function of the budget or budgeter. Taxes have a function as a source of state income and are used to finance state expenditures so that they can be balanced state income and expenditure. regulating function or regulatory function. Through this function, taxes are used as a tool to regulate and implement state policies. For example, policies around taxes to regulate economic growth and the rate of inflation. Equalization function. The taxes collected will be used to finance various public interests that have an impact on the wider community. For example, for equitable infrastructure development so as to create new jobs. Stability function. Taxes function to maintain the stability of the country's economic conditions. This stability can be done by regulating the circulation of money, collecting taxes, using taxes effectively and efficiently. We get into the third question. What is the difference between direct and indirect taxes?
The characteristics of tax. Based on their characteristic, taxes are divided into: first, indirect taxes. Taxes imposed on taxpayers and billed based on the certain events or activities. This tax is not collected periodically, but only done at certain times. For example, sales tax on luxury goods. Second, Direct taxes. This tax is applied periodically to the taxpayers according to the tax assessment letter made by the tax office. For example, income tax and land and building tax. The elements of tax. Taxes have the following characteristics or elements, such as:
tax is a form of citizen contribution. Taxes are coercive. Tax payments will not get a return that can be shown directly. The collection of tax is regulated and determined by law. Tax collection is carried out to meet the general financing needs of the government to carry out the government functions, both in the form of infrastructure and facilities. We get into the fourth question. What is the procedure for collecting taxes in Indonesia? The following recruitments must be met in the tax collection system. First, taxes must be fair. Second, tax arrangements must be based on the law. Third, tax collection does not interfere with economic condition. Fourth, tax collection must be efficient. And the fifth, the tax collection system must be simple. For example, The VAT rate, which was initially varied, was simplified to a single rate of 10%. Types of taxes in Indonesia based on the collection agency. Based on the collection agency, taxes are divided into two in Indonesia, namely, first, central tax. Central taxes are managed by the central government, most of which are managed by the Directorate General of Taxes, Ministry of Finance. This central tax includes income tax, or we call it PPH, value added tax, VAT, sales tax on luxury goods, or PPNBM, stamp duty, land and building tax, or PBB. Second, local tax. Regional taxes are managed by the regional government at the provincial and regency or city levels. Local tax includes A. Provincial tax, which consists of vehicle tax and cigarette tax. B. Regency or city taxes, which consists of hotel tax and restaurant tax. We get into the fifth question. What the tax is coercive? The effect of taxes on the Indonesian economy is that it can certainly improve the country's economy because taxes can be used as a tool to optimally enter funds into the state treasury based on the applicable tax laws, so that by financing all expenses related to the government processes and infrastructure development, as well as to help MSMEs, taxes have a big role. We get into the sixth question. What if the tax rate goes up? What impact will it have on the economy in Indonesia? What happens if taxes go up? If there is an increase in tax rates, the wheels of the economy will temporarily be disturbed because there will still be adjustments to increase in tax rates that occur. But that only applies to the community, not to the government, which can use the increase in tax rate on the economy. When we're making a transaction, especially on goods or services, you are often faced with the term VAT. VAT stands for Value Added Tax, which is a levy imposed on the distribution and transaction process. VAT collection is quite often found in daily activities, such as eating at restaurants, shopping at malls, to buying drinks at coffee shops. Therefore, you need to understand the meaning along with the object of tax and VAT rates,
So, as not to get confused, let's see. So, what is VAT? Value-added tax, or VAT, is a tax collection on every transaction or trade of buying and selling domestic products or services to individual taxpayers, business entities, and the government. That is, the tax is paid directly by the merchant, but paid by the consumer. Thus, it is said to be indirect because consumers do not pay directly to the government.
We get into the seventh question. In your opinion, what is the negative impact of an 11% VAT increase?
Because the increase in tax rates can have a negative impact on society. What are the negative effects? First, the price of goods goes up. Second, purchasing power plummeted. Third, labor absorption decreased. Due to the pandemic, the ratio in 2020 was reduced due to a decrease in income itself because of to activity restrictions and a focus on reducing the burden on the people affected by the pandemic, such as tax cuts for the employees. Seeing this condition, the tax contribution needs to be maximized. In addition, it is important to see what types of taxes should be optimized.
The reason is that the tax structure affects the long-term economic growth of a country. The Fiscal Policy Agency of the Ministry of Finance, or BKF of the Ministry of Finance, assesses that Indonesia needs to carry out tax reforms. This is due to the low ratio of levies in the terms of value added tax, or VAT, and income tax, or PPH. Based on the research in the middle income countries, the BKF of the Ministry of Finance sees that the direct taxes, especially corporate income tax or PPH, have a negative effect on the economic growth. Meanwhile, indirect taxes such as VAT have a positive effect on the economic growth. To achieve an optimal tax structure, VAT needs to be increased. VAT performance can be maximized by reducing facilities, encouraging compliance, or increasing productive rates. The seventh plenary meeting of the Indonesian House of Representatives officially ratified the Bill on the Harmonization of Tax Regulation, or the HPP Bill, into law, or UU. That way, the VAT rate or value added tax will also increase gradually. Economic observer of Indigo Network, Ajib Hamdani, said that the increase in the VAT rate was not a problem, because the problem is regarding the limit of taxable income, which will also be reset. In fact, it is within the limits of taxable income that will also be rearranged. Hopefully, it will not burden business actors. Meanwhile, for the rate increase, Ajib himself admits that he doesn't mind, because at least the government listens to the choices of entrepreneurs by not imposing tariffs at the highest limit of 15%. Minister of Law and Human Rights, Yasona Lawley, said the increase in the VAT rate was still relatively lower than the world average of 15.4%. He even gave an example of several other developing countries, whose tax collections are still higher than in Indonesia. Globally, the VAT rate in Indonesia is relatively lower than the world average of 15.4%, and also lower than Philippines, 12%, China, 13%, Saudi Arabia, 15%, Pakistan, 17%, and India, 18%. As you can see on the screen, there's a data about VAT in the other country. The VAT in Indonesia, Cambodia, and Malaysia is still 10%, which is it's same, and it means relatively lower than the other country. We get to the eighth question. In your opinion, what are the reasons that strongly support the 11% VAT increase? the government imposed a value-added tax, or VAT, of 11% on April 1st, 2022. This provision refers to the Law No. 7 of 2021 concerning harmonization of tax regulation, or HPP. Article 7 of the HPP law states that the amount of VAT as of April 1st, 2022 is 11%. In the previous provision, namely Law No. 42 of 2009, concerning the Third Amendment of the Law No. 8 of the 1983, concerning value-added tax on goods and services and sales tax on luxury goods. The amount of VAT is 10%. However, not all goods and services become taxable goods, or BKP, and taxable services, or JKP. Why was VAT in Indonesia increased to 11%? The increase in VAT rates aims to provide a fair and strong tax regime. The finance minister emphasized that taxes are mutual cooperation from the Indonesian economy side from those who are relatively well off. This is because the collected taxes will be used again for the community. Quotes from the Ministry of Finance fiscal page: BKP are tangible goods, which, according to their nature or law, can be in the form of movable or immovable goods, and intangible goods, which are taxed under the VAT law. Meanwhile, JKP is any service activity based on engagement, letter, or legal action that causes an item, facility, convenience, or right to be available for use, including service performed to produce ordered goods or requests with materials and or instructions from the customer, which is subject to tax based on the VAT law. The implementation of 11% VAT is one of the government's policies in improving tax revenue performance. By encouraging an increase in tax revenue, the government hopes to improve the APBN deficit to a level of 3% by 2023. A strong tax foundation will also optimize state revenues so as to help the government realize improvement in the welfare, justice, and social development for the community. VAT rate adjustments to 11% is aimed at realizing a more equitable taxation system. People who are better able to pay a higher tax rate to be returned to the state and used for the benefit of the wider community. Minister of Finance, or Menko, Sri Mulyani said that the increase in Indonesia's VAT rate was still much lower than the other countries. This is certainly influenced by the position of the Indonesia and a number of other countries which are still struggling with the post-pandemic economic recovery. Entrepreneurs from the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, or KADIN, support this plan to be carried out. Chairman of KADIN, Asrat Rashid, said the increase in VAT would help the government increase state revenues. In the end, the government can push back the APBN deficit to a maximum of 3% in 2023. Expert opinion about the increase in VAT in Indonesia. The General Chairperson of At-Patsi, or general leader of DDTC News Darussalam, emphasized that the steps taken by the current government are quite wise. This means that the government wants to return VAT according to its initial principles, but still accommodate economic conditions and community needs. The increase in VAT rates, he added, would not necessarily be imposed on all goods and services. Goods and services that were previously exempt are now also provided with a VAT exemption facility that is not collected even though they have become the object of VAT. Airlangga University tax specialist Dr. Elia Mustikarsari said that the increase of the VAT actually burdens the community. Elia also added that Indonesia's VAT is still relatively moderate. However, in fact, the VAT increase was implemented on the time amidst the economic momentum of the people starting to improve, after previously being paralyzed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Main expert staff of the Presidential Staff Office, or KSP, Edi Priyono emphasized that the 11% VAT rate increase was carried out to build the tax foundation. By taking advantage of the momentum of economic recovery. Although the space to increase VAT is still wide open, the government chooses to take a more lightening policy, added Eddie.
We get into the ninth question. What do you think about the impact of 11% of VAT on MSMEs, or we call it UMKM?
VAT on MSMEs, or we call it UMKM. The chairman of the International Council for Small Business, or ICSB, of Tabanan Regency, Bagus Arya Kusuma, as SOS M.M. said that the increase in VAT to 11% is making it more difficult for small business actors today. This is because when faced with the issue of the uncontrolled cooking oil price until now, even without an increase in VAT, production price at the producer level have increased due to the increase in food staples ahead of Ramadan. The increase in VAT will certainly have an impact on all business circles. The increase in VAT will have a long-term impact because it will be a cost that must still be paid and has the potential to spread to other things. Therefore, MSME actors will certainly recalculate to increase production so as not to lose money. Inflation in Indonesia, which affects the price of basic commodities, is not caused by VAT. The increase in the basic raw materials is due to the current unstable world political situation. Where is the conflict between Russia and Ukraine causing global trade instability? Ease of collecting VAT will also be given to certain types of goods or services, or certain business sectors through the application of the final VAT rates. For example, 1%, 2%, or 3% of business circulation. The government's efforts to impose final VAT at a low rate and simple administration in the HPP law should be implemented immediately to help business actors, especially MSMEs. The projected value added tax revenue at the end of the 2022 is 1,3353.3 trillion Indonesia rupiah, based on the presentation of the Institute for Development of Economics and Finance, or INDEF, in a news website. This is calculated from the tax based on the public consumption, which is targeted to grow by 6.7% year-on-year, or equivalent to 554.38 trillion rupiah from the government exposure. This projection is 8.5% higher than this year's tax revenue target of only 1,229.58 trillion rupiah. This revenue will eventually be redistributed for recovery programs that will explore the Indonesian economy, such as vaccination programs, economic incentives, etc. Goods and services that are not subject to value-added tax. First, the basic needs by many people, such as rice, milk, fruit, sugar, salt, soybeans, meat, vegetable, and egg. Second, medical health services. For the A part, certain health services, paramedical and nurse services, general physician services, such as general physician services, specialist doctors, psychologists and psychiatrist services, health expert services, midwifery services and traditional birth attendants, veterinary services, home service hospitals, maternity hospitals, health clinics, health laboratories, and sanatoriums. For the B part, is health services covered by JKN or Health Insurance Program. Third, education services, including services for providing education outside of school, services for providing school education, and textbooks. Fourth, social services, including orphanage and nursing home services, firefighting services, accident assistance services, rehabilitation services, services for providing funeral homes or funeral services, including crematoriums. Fifth, financial services, including services for collecting funds from the public in the form of demand deposits, time deposits, certificates, savings, and or other equivalent forms. 6. Manpower services, including manpower services, manpower supply services, as long as the manpower provider entrepreneur is not responsible for the work result of the state manpower, and services for organizing training for workers. 7. Insurance services. 8. Non-profit sports services. Here's the illustration of calculating VAT that must be paid by various methods. An entrepreneur's production activities include the following costs. Purchase: raw material 2,000, adjuvant 1,000, spare part 1,000, and the total is 4,000. And the added cost: shrinkage 250, loan interest 750, salary or wage 1,000, management fee 750, operating profit 750, and the total is 3,500, and for the all total is 7,500. So first, editing method. For the editing method, it's VAT equals the percentage of the VAT times added value, which is VAT equals 11% times 3,500 rupiah equals 385. And the next method is subtraction method. For this method, it's VAT equals deviation between selling price and buying price times the percentage of the VAT. So, VAT equals 11% times 7,500 minus 4,000 equals 385. And the last method is credit method. VAT to be paid equals the percentage of the VAT times sales minus the percentage of the VAT times purchase, which is the VAT to be paid equals 11% times 7,500 rupiah minus 11% times 4,000 rupiah equals 385. VAT calculation benefits with credit method. The entrepreneur's assumption is a coconut oil factory entrepreneur, and raw material in the form of coconut is purchased from plantation farmers, which is VAT free. If coconut is 60% of the purchase value materials, then the VAT payable is: first selling price of coconut oil is 7,500. For the VAT payable is 11% times 7,500, which is 125. Purchase price of materials and others is 4,000. Raw material in the form of coconut is 2,400. And for part of the purchase price that is payable VAT is 1,600. Next is the VAT on purchase, which is 11% times 1,600, and it is 176. So the VAT to be paid is 649. We can compare with the subtraction method that generates tax debt of 385 rupiah. UU PPN or VAT Law 1984, which applies in Indonesia, addressed to credit method, invoice method, and indirect subtraction method. The Directorate General of Taxes or DGT of the Ministry of Finance or Kemenko emphasized that the electronic money balance do not include taxable goods. So, they are not subject to value added tax or VAT. This provision is based on a regulation of the Minister of Finance number 69/PMK.03/2022 concerning income tax and VAT on the implementation of financial technology. In the PMK, it is stated that the money in the digital wallet, including bonus points, top-up points, reward points, and loyalty points, are goods that are not subject to VAT. However, service activities or transactions using electronic money are subject to VAT because they are taxable services. So, how much is the VAT on electronic money services? And how is it calculated? The amount of VAT on electronic money services refers to the Law on the Harmonization of Tax Regulations, or HPP. The amount of VAT in Indonesia is 11% and has been in effect since April 1st, 2022. It should be noted, in the context of financial technology, the amount of this 11% tax is not calculated from the nominal amount of transactions made you did. If you have a balance of 50 million Indonesian rupiah on a digital wallet platforms, for example, then you will not be subject to VAT on that balance. However, the case is different when you make a transaction or payment using that balance. If that happens, an 11% tax will be charged and calculated from the services fee that appears on the transaction you make. So, how much is the VAT on the electronic money services and how is it calculated?
For example, you make a payment for shopping of 1 million Indonesian rupiah using a digital or electronic wallet balance. Then there is a services fee of 5,000 Indonesian rupiah that accompanies it. From that transaction, 11% VAT is calculated from the services fee incurred, namely from 5,000 rupiah. Thus, amount of VAT charged on the transaction we make is 11% times 5,000 rupiah, which is 550 rupiah. As another example, if you pay a bill for payment using digital money of 500,000 rupiah, then for that payment you will be charged a service fee of 3,000 rupiah. Then the VAT charge is 11% multiplied by 3,000 rupiah, so it is equal to 330 rupiah. That's how to calculate the amount of VAT on transaction using digital money. So, VAT is not calculated from the nominal amount of money spent. How to calculate VAT for electronic money services? We get into the 10th question. Is Indonesia ready for an 11% VAT increase? Please explain based on your opinion.
The reform has been 10%, and now it is 2022, which result in the mindset that exists in the VAT community is 10%. When we see in the HPP law that the VAT range is 5% until 15%. But in the HPP Act, it is stated that 11% VAT applies on the April 1st, 2022 ago. And later, it will rise another 1% to 12%, which is no later than January 1st, 2025. But it could be faster, maybe in 2023 or 2024. But there will be discussions with the DPR regarding the RAPBN. VAT rates is already increased to 11% in 2022 and agreed to raise to 12% in 2025. The government and the DPR RI have agreed to gradually increase the value-added tax rate until 2025. Meanwhile, the VAT rate of 12% will be applied no later than January 1st, 2025. As I said, it is also stated that the VAT rate can be changed to a minimum of 5% and a maximum of 15%. Understand that currently the attention of the public and the business world is focused on the economic recovery. However, this doesn't prevent the government from building a strong tax foundation, especially during the pandemic. The State Revenue and Expenditure Budget, or APBN, has become an extraordinary instrument, so it needs to be held immediately. Taxation is a mutual cooperation from the Indonesia economy side from the relatively well-off. This is because the collected taxes will be used again for the community. Therefore, it is advised not to worry about the increase in VAT rates that will continue, because the main goal of this policy is to realize justice based on the mutual cooperation for the mutual progress of the economy in Indonesia. That's all for today's topics. Hopefully, this is useful for you. And if it's useful, don't forget to share with the others.